Legal cannabis was a $10 billion industry last year, and experts say it's going to be worth over $20 billion by the end of next year. And the big question is this: how do normal people like us, who aren't part of the 1%, how do we take the money in our pockets and participate in the largest transfer of wealth? My name is Charles. I'm joining Roz McCarthy and Eric Range of Canna Talk with Roz, and then we explore those answers.
Hello, everybody. It's Roz McCarthy and Eric Range. We're here with Canna Talk with Roz. Listen, I missed you guys last week. We were away. We were traveling with so much going on. So welcome, everybody. So happy to see you. And we got a great show today. What's going on, Eric Range?
What's going on, my sister? You look beautiful as always.
Yeah, power to the people, power to the people.
Hey, listen, you've been working hard. I've been working hard. There's a lot going on right now. For those of you who don't know, this is legislative season around the country. And Minorities for Medical Marijuana, we're on the ground everywhere. And we're doing what we can to impact legislation throughout the country. So we missed you guys last week. We wish we could have been here with you, but there were a lot of deadlines that we had to meet. And one of these days, we're going to do a conversation just about public policy and some of the things that are happening around the country. But once again, I'm excited about the lineup of guests that we have on. Again, a testament to how women are just killing the game right now. You guys are really crushing it in the cannabis industry. So I'm just excited. 420 is coming up. We're officially in April now. Spring is on. It's a lot of growth and a lot is happening. So I'm just excited for the conversation today.
Absolutely. So we're going to get started. I want to make sure that you understand we've been talking about the ecosystem of cannabis. And this is our last series where we're talking about the cannabis symposiums, expos, conferences, things that you wouldn't think that are in the ecosystem of cannabis that are really important to the business side, the social justice side. And so these two ladies are going to introduce themselves, but when you listen to what they're doing and what they're touching and how important the work they're doing is clearly has to be done. And I want to make sure that we really empower you guys to look at things from a different perspective, not always looking at touching plant, look at the different ways that you can make an impact. So first and foremost, we're going to introduce Ms. Kimberly Easton. Kimberly, welcome.
Hi.
Welcome. Introduce yourself and tell us where you are, my love.
Oh, hello. Thank you so much for inviting me on the show this afternoon. I really appreciate it. Well, just a little bit about myself. I've been a television news anchor reporter for 25 plus years. And in the past 6 to 7 years, I was lured away from CBS News in Chicago to start working as a strategist for some of the big cannabis companies. So I've kind of been involved in the trenches with you, even though many of you have not met me yet. I've been in the trenches doing strategies for different states throughout the country, those who were trying to minimize and legalize medical marijuana or some form of CBD or TH moderate forms that people need for medical purposes. And some of those companies involved Medical Marijuana Inc., which had a greenhouse of at least a dozen different small companies like Canna Life Sciences, Axum, Biotechnologies, and the list goes on and on. I also work with Isidol for a temporary part, off and on different projects for campaigns and conferences. So I've probably been one of the many sea of people with you. So as a journalist recently in the past 60 days, I have just decided to join forces with my partner named Shane Duell. He is the owner of the U.S. Weed Channel. Yes,
awesome.
Weed has a channel. And so when I learned about this after spending 6 years in the trenches, going state to state, educating one reporter after another in every single market of this country about what is going on in America with medical marijuana and cannabis in general, it's been a tough road. You can only know how hard it is to try to educate people. So when I heard Shane Duell had a channel, a broadcast network that streams on every single device in the world, and it is federally recognized with its trade and service marks, which means we have permission to talk about this issue, my eyes were like saucers. So 60 days ago, I signed on the dotted line to be partnered. I am now part owner, co-owner of the U.S. Weed Channel. So where am I now? You can see behind me. If you can see a little bit behind me, I am in Pittsburgh. I'm literally in my car. We're still going state to state, telling people about the U.S. Weed Channel. We also just signed David Irving. David Irving is the former Dallas Cowboy, recently in the news, who was canned after his third infraction. He just basically said, I quit. I'm not going to do this. I'm a user of medical marijuana. I don't like the laws. Yes, I understand it, but there's no way I'm going to win this game. So he is going to be our spokesperson for our launch and our benefit. Our benefit is for the deaf. I don't know if you know this or not, but the deaf community does not even have anyone to be able to articulate, or any way to articulate a conversation in sign language. They actually do not have sign language for the deaf at this point in the cannabis space. So if I was deaf and I needed to talk about cannabis with my medical doctor, I wouldn't be able to do it because there's no sign language for it. So this benefit that we're holding on 419, we are going to actually give a portion of that money to the linguists who are going to help create sign language for the deaf who need to know more about medical marijuana and even be able to have a basic discussion with their medical doctors. So this is an amazing event that we've got going on. This channel has been around for 5 years. 5 years. And now we're finally got the right people at the table to really launch it. We're looking for people who have documentaries out there that need a place to show what they've been doing over the past several years. But what's interesting about this, most cannabis businesses right now can't even advertise anywhere except through billboards and newspapers because, as we all know, marijuana is still federally a Schedule I drug and federally illegal. So many of these cannabis businesses have to go to a trade show or they have to use a billboard to be able to advertise and hope that somebody remembers their brand. Well, guess what? We have permission from the federal government. We're a subscription-based channel. So we have permission to not only discuss this, we've got that permission to be able to have cannabis businesses actually have their commercial on our channel. So when we do programming, it's similar to like your HBO. We will be able to say this show is brought to you by this business. So instead of you paying thousands of dollars and going to a trade show and hoping somebody remembers you out of 5,000 exhibitors is insane. When you could be a part of the channel, invest your money with the channel, help get programming out there to the masses. I mean, it's amazing. You have an opportunity to be a producer, to come on and do your own show on TV.
Kimberly, I love it. Hold on right there, Kimberly. Hold on 1 second. Hold on. Because I don't want you to give us all the meat and potatoes yet. I got to bring in Lawanda.
Oh, yeah, I'm so excited.
No, I love it. Listen, you guys. You have to be passionate about what you're doing. You have to love what you're doing. And God bless you, Kimberly, if you find your niche and find your sweet spot. And so hold tight. I want to make sure we get more content, talk about the conference, talk about what you got going on. I want to bring in Lawanda Nuts. Lawanda is based out of Oakland. I've been knowing her now for almost 2 years now. Lawanda, tell these folks who you are and what you do and what you've been doing for the cause out here for the last 2.5, 3 years.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ross, for this opportunity to share the story, what's going on. We're boots on the ground in Oakland. And so a little bit about me, and then I'll go into more about what we do for the equity applicants here in Oakland. I'm the owner of Make Green Go. I first started out in cannabis being a patient for over 15 years. Had, my medical marijuana card and would go to dispensaries and learned a lot about the plant just from a patient. And so that's how I really gained respect for cannabis, and I always wanted to be in the industry. So I took skills that I learned from the wine industry and being a consultant for 7-Eleven for many years, and transferred those skills into cannabis and started doing workshops on compliance and helping startups really learn how to get into the legal market.
Right.
Then the RFQ came out from the city of Oakland for a government contract to provide technical assistance to equity applicants And when I read it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like, describe what we do, what we've been doing on our own. And so we applied. It was pretty competitive. This was in 2017. And then we were awarded the contract, which was, I believe, the first equity program in the country. So it was a pretty big deal. And we dove in, head first and started working with equity applicants on their applications for the dispensary permits, because there were going to be 4 dispensary permits issued to equity applicants. So that was like our first task. And then from there, actually 6 equity applicants out of the 8 that were issued went to equity-owned businesses. And I think, Roz, you're familiar with some of those.
I am.
Yeah, and so it's just been, a journey, and I have, information that I can share, but I'll just pass it back over to you, Roz.
It has been a journey. So I want you guys to understand and make sure, Lawanda, when you talk, make sure you sit up so we can get your voice as loud as we can. But this young lady and her husband, they are the pioneers in regards to understanding the nuances of providing technical support to equity applicants. She was given a landscape and given, hey, here we go, here's the program. Now, what can you do and what needs to be done? And not really having all the direction, just trying to figure it out. And so a lot of times, like for example, when you see, I have this from Weed Maps. This is their social justice and cannabis reform, social equity paper. When you see this stuff coming out, it's because of the work Lawanda and working in Oakland to make sure and understand, what does that program mean? How do we make it beneficial to the participants in the program? How do we support them? So blessings, my sister. I'm so glad to have you on. And we're going to talk more about what you have going on and what's the iteration, like where you are now, and what's the future of the program and some of the learning lessons that you've learned and gone from there. So E, and jump in anytime if you got any questions or what have you. But Kimberly, I want to circle back around with you. Just let's talk about in regards to kind of finding the ecosystem and finding your sweet spot. It's obvious the US Weed channel has become your sweet spot, that passion. But tell people, like, how long does it take to find that sweet spot? And then give examples of when you had some ups and downs of some things that didn't work out that you thought were going to work out, and how you recover and you still keep going.
Wow. I'm probably one of the most straight and narrow people you're going to find. And I always joke about that because I graduated from 2 Christian universities and I was a very strong far right person. So for me to go from the religious right to really understanding the power of the plant and how it's, making, saving lives and changing lives, this is probably the most passionate I've been about something in a long time. And as a journalist, we cover all kinds of issues, and most of us retire in television news. And so when I got into this, I was like, oh yeah, I'll help these people, I'll create the narrative. And then when I started talking to the patients and the people whose lives were being changed, and then seeing the movement and going state to state, and there would be, another state's on board that's supporting medical marijuana. I think about all the hundreds of thousands of people who are having a better quality of life. So then it just kind of got in my belly, like, I'm really doing something that's important for others. And even though I worked in service for others as a television news reporter for so many years, this was just different. It's a grassroots kind of wonderful transformation that we have going on in the country. So some of the problems that I ran into was I was working with, several medical companies. I have a lot of sources and a lot of contacts on the national level. And I was getting high level interviews for some of these R&D companies. And when I say high level, I'm getting them on CNBC, I'm getting them on the Associated Press, I'm getting people into, getting them on the, different, talk shows. And so what was the biggest problem I had is many of these companies, they didn't even have a drug to market yet. So it was starting to reflect on me and my credibility. And that was becoming a problem because these companies, even though they were getting this national recognition, many of these companies weren't even ready to go to market. And so I would start to approach some of my journalists to say, hey, let's get this on your show. And they're like, no, let's wait a minute, because these people just aren't ready.
Right.
So, you know, that was a really hard part for me, trying to figure out where I'm going to fit in this picture and find the sweet spot. So when I realized that the US Weed channel had been sitting there for 5 years, and the reason why it was is because no one really knew about the power of what they would be able to do. No one knew that they were the only ones, the only broadcast entity with federal trade and service marks. That's huge, because no matter what happens in this industry, this channel is going to be running. So I was able to take my work as a strategist in the industry all these years, and as a broadcaster, TV broadcaster for 20 something years, and merge them together. It truly became a sweet spot for me after many, many challenges. And now I can kind of control that content. I can look for the content. Now I'm not beholden to a journalist to actually get the story out there. We have the channel.
You have the platform. And Kim, to that point, Kim, you know, I you know, being in from the media standpoint for 20 plus years and so on, and understanding how the media has a huge role in shaping the message, shaping what the public knows. And typically these, you know, large corporations that have these TV broadcasting companies and so on, they get to shape the message from the top down, and at the very least shape the agenda. Talk about how important it is to have someone like you, an African-American woman, in this role, being able to, you know, not only shape the message of the entire industry, but also give different perspectives and you know, talk about, you know, I guess maybe some of the vision and how you see yourself playing in that role.
I mean, it is critical. You know, this channel is owned, initially was owned by my counterpart. And he's a white man. And, you know, I've worked in the industry with all, you know, predominantly white journalists. And I know how they just don't think about our issues and how we, you know, what our perceptions are about what is happening in our world. And so when he approached me and said, will you be my co-owner of this channel? I was like, I cannot turn this down.
Right.
We need to have leadership at the table as we form the narrative. After we suffered the hardest from the war on drugs, we suffered. And now that they're at the table, I mean, I told the stories. I was in the trenches with people crying when their babies were dragged to jail over a little bit of weed. I told those stories for years. And now we are so stigmatized. We are traumatized by the stigma of weed.
Yes.
That we may miss the opportunity to actually make money in this industry. So this is for me not to take this opportunity would have been a travesty to my own people.
Yes. Yes. So well, we thank you for stepping up to that.
We are not getting some of these licenses because we don't have the information that we need. We don't know the formulation that we need to secure these deals. What you guys are doing, absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
But imagine it if it's on a channel that's going out. Right now, we're talking on the US Weed channel. And what we're talking about right now is going out to the world, millions of people. That's what we have access to now.
That's awesome.
That's what we have access to.
So that gives us, Lawanda, let's go back into talking about, you know, you and I, the work that we're doing, and yours is on a for-profit, and mine's on a nonprofit side, but the access to media, the access to shining a light on, you know, that people always talk about the negative things that may go on, but you have had some significant successes in what you've done. How do you get your story out there to people so they know what's going on? And talk a little bit about this upcoming conference that you have and why you're having it and why it's so important to continue to help connect the dots.
Okay, yeah, those are good questions. So to get the story out, people like you, I mean, who see the truth basically, and they're not caught up in what's, you know, popular, the negativity that the media normally picks up on. And so I really, you know, appreciate being able to speak on a platform like this to really share the truth.
Right.
And so that's how I get the word out. And then regarding the event, so, you know, just to back up a little bit, I mean, anybody can put on an event, and we really didn't want to have to do an event because it's a lot of work. Conference and expo is a lot of work, but we thought it was necessary because when we go to trade shows around the country, we're not represented there.
No.
We're not represented on the trade floor, and we're not represented in the audience. And so there's a need, and there's valuable information that is shared at these conferences and these summits. And so so that was one of the reasons why we decided, well, we should do this, because we have this audience of over, you know, 300, over 300 equity applicants just in Oakland alone.
Right.
Across the bridge, there's over 200 in San Francisco. So just in the Bay Area, then we have Sacramento and San Jose joining in on the equity program as well. We believe that we actually have the leverage in numbers to do our own conference and to have our own expo.
Right.
Right. And so basically we went with that. And it took a lot of work. We wanted to identify, you know, part of what Kimberly identified is that a lot of these folks weren't market ready. And so we've been working with them for over 2 years. We did a product call and said, bring what you've made, flour, you know.
Whatever it is, bring it.
Whatever it is, you can see it. And they did. They showed up. I mean,
Lawanda, you don't care. Whatever you got, just bring it. So let's see what you're working with, right?
Yeah. What you're working with, and they showed up. We had brands that were already, some of them were in dispensaries, some of them have not had the opportunity to get on a shelf yet. And I mean, these are fabulous products. They are high quality products. And so we identified 15 companies that we're going to expo and showcase at this event on April 26th. So it's going to be, you know, equity-owned businesses that manufacture or cultivate their own products with their labels on it. And we're inviting buyers from dispensaries. We're partnering with the city of Oakland and San Francisco to invite the buyers from these dispensaries to attend and place orders. We're actually ready. These companies will be ready to place orders at the trade show.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I'll do you one even better. Once you guys go through that process, let's circle back around and see how Infra-MM can create some opportunities on the East Coast for them. Because again, you have California that's such a saturated market, and we have some new people that we've brought on board on our board who are specializing in branding and licensing, and we can figure out how we can maybe help them solidify and create deals here on the East Coast, up and down the seaboard, because I think that's where we have to think beyond our borders of where we live. And you can take your product and just have it created in the state that has a license and work with a license holder and be able to eat off of that as well and revenue share. And that's what I want to see if we can maybe help out in that way. I would love to see, it's so beautiful to see how creative we are as people and what we bring out there. We had a guy on that had, you know, cannabis infused ice cream. We had a cannabis infused lemonade here on the East Coast, but I know the West Coast got some heat, some fire, and I would love to see that. I'm sure. Is it now? Is the conference also,
Lawanda?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, first I was going to say we put up the links on the Facebook. So if you guys are watching and you're wondering how do you get up, get tickets to these events and whatnot, I put them all in our Facebook Live. So go there, and we'll have them, repeat the websites later on. But Lawanda, I'm curious, what was the response you got from your distribution partners, from folks who you've invited to come and place orders and so on? What was that response? And, talk about that process and getting them on board.
Yeah, actually, it's been really good. The first year we didn't do an expo and we wanted sponsors and people last year, just in a year, were not trying to hear it. And then this year, it's just been a complete turnaround where we actually have a pretty big, like, nationwide distributor collaborating with us. And they're called Blackbird. And so they're just one of the many distributors who see this as an opportunity because we have the numbers. we can demonstrate that we have the majority of the local permits, we have the majority of the temporary state licenses, and the majority of the full annual licenses here in Oakland. So we're big players. If once we come together and realize the power that we have, and it was pretty easy to get the distributors and the retailers involved.
That's
Absolutely.
awesome. That's awesome. And this is, go ahead.
I'd love to see that in Florida, because the diversity language that we're putting in place in different states, I think feeds directly into this with some of the license holders in the more vertically integrated markets like Florida, where the access points to the market are not, the same as it is in California or Colorado, but being able to put on an event like this and have these companies who are vertically integrated come and look at the products that we have available. We'd love to get some of those products from the West Coast here on the East Coast and vice versa. And I think you're absolutely right. I love the concept of the event. I think it's forward thinking and it's awesome. So thank you for what you're doing.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Thank you.
So,
is there a website where if I have a product, I can go and put my product in the pipeline for future events or anything like that? Or, how often do you do the opportunity where I can come and present my product? Like you said, bring what you have, when's the next one? How can people get involved in that regard?
That's a good question. So we did it under the equity program. So right now we're servicing Oakland equity applicants. Because the response was so good, we've done 2 and we've done 1 a month. So we would like to continue to do 1 a month. There is no external way to necessarily get involved in that, but now that you bring that up, I think we need to work on it. Other products involved and make it bigger. We do want to do this event annually, maybe even semi-annually. We were even able to get NCIA to sponsor and get involved, which is huge, that they saw the need to support.
And let me tell you, we have, Lawanda is a member of M4MM, and so she's in our chat. We have a Slack chat, which is the app that you can see all the conversation of different products and things of that nature. I've always said, I'm not a conference person because I don't have the wherewithal to do a conference. So if anybody's out here that wants to do a conference, I would love to do something that ends up bringing the hemp people, the cannabis, social equity outside of it. I always say do it in Oakland. It's a consumption-friendly state. Let me tell you something. When I was at New West Summit, I would walk out and we'd be at the Marriott and people are they're doing their thing. They're like, it's just easy. People are not tripping about it. So, there's ways and opportunities. And the reason why I'm having you ladies on is because as an organization, we're committed to supporting. We don't have to have our name on everything. I'm like, I'll tell you this one. I'll make you guys laugh. We don't have to be the Suge Knight, what Suge Knight said, or the Puffy of cannabis, where we got to be all in the video with the shiny suit, singing this song. No, M4MM, we don't have to be. We could be the backup. We could be the supporter. We could be able to maybe help push funds that way. We could bring our thoughts together. Kimberly she's probably thinking of ideas of how she can shed light on what you're doing. Right, Kimberly?
Yeah, I do actually, because, with all the trade conferences that we've got going on, and, there are dozens and hundreds of trade conferences around the country, and this is our raise on 4/19 in Vegas. We're doing our big raise, and, we want to make sure that the channel will be able to support the programming, to be able to go to some of these conferences and highlight some of these new products and some of these businesses. And so, and being able to not only be a support to what is going on the ground, just getting them that exposure they need to make their next conference even bigger and better the next time around. There are so many ideas we have swirling around. It's amazing. And already it's catching fire. Like I said, I'm based in the Indianapolis area, and I've been on the road, and I'm currently in Pittsburgh, and I spoke to a crowd of like 75 different people. They have cannabis here, they have dispensaries here, and, just talking to small groups. And so that's just as important as, human interaction between us all is important, because that's the only way we're going to know how to support each other. And Absolutely. So, and that's why this is an exciting time for me, because I get to find out the ideas. I get to have different people within your organization to come to me and say, Kim, I've been documenting this for the past 5 years, 3 years, and I like to get my show on your platform. It's just the opportunities are endless, And so we want to be a support to everyone else out there. And, and we want everybody to know we have a platform for you. Let's generate those ideas. Let's get those ideas out there. Let's touch as many people as we can touch, because that keeps us in the continued powerful position. As a matter of fact, last night I'm on the East Coast. So I'm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, like I said, and we talked about social equity.
Right.
We talked about getting at the front of the line and making sure you're winning those licenses. And so, and letting them know about the legislation.
Right.
Critical that is to us as a group.
Yeah.
And how
that
we remain powerful, not just on one side of the country, but on both sides of the country.
Yeah, absolutely. Kim, I'll tell you, I heard of a little show called Can I Talk with Roz that is like a big hit right now in the industry. I know,
we gotta get
it would love a platform like the US Weed. I don't know. You might have heard of it. You might not have. But
we just got to put the camera right on Roz. Okay?
That's right. That's right.
Put the camera,
hey, I'm not going to be all in the videos, all with the shiny suit.
Sorry, you know what? Let me tell you this. This is the fun part about our network. Not only do we have a TV network, we have a radio network. So you could simulcast what you got going on our radio network.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're actually looking at doing some things from a radio perspective, looking at Sirius and iHeart, because we really want to take this information. We want to push it out there. I'm very intentional in making sure that I highlight and support people of color in this industry. And we have to do it. I run an organization that does it, but when I have, this is my product, I'm intentional when I bring you guys on, because folks don't get a chance to see and hear what's going on coast to coast to coast. So when Lawanda Nuts, when you guys are wondering, okay, what's Oakland doing or what have you, she she and her company are at the epicenter of social equity in this country, not in California, but in this country. And so I salute this sister for the work that she has done and what she continues to do.
Yeah. And
Kimberly Easton, same thing. When Kimberly told me her story and she told me how many people that she done turned on, that I know she done turned on, and how she got them in the game and they look like us. And when she's behind the scenes doing that, you guys, it's phenomenal. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, Eric, but I'm in awe, and I'm so just grateful to be able to make these connections. But go ahead, Eric.
No, I think I'm underscoring the same point that you're making, that, we talk all the time, you and I, we crisscross this country and we meet the wonderful people who are really in the trenches, who are behind the scenes. And folks need to know that, minorities are already in the industry. We're not, there's a lot of us looking to get into the industry, but make no mistake about it. There's a lot of us already here, already making waves, already doing the hard work, and we're moving the needle. I mean, I can remember just maybe a year or two ago, we were talking about how, we only own like 1% of the dispensaries. And, recently there was an article that said we're up to like 4.5. And people look at that and they say, man, that's not really growth. But when you're in the trenches fighting for every single license, every single application, you understand what that type of growth actually means and what it looks like. And so, this is why it's important to have these kind of conversations about introducing you folks. It's why it's important about the events that you guys are doing. 420 is a big weekend, and you hear about all of the huge, high times events and, cannabis cups and so on. But listen, we got folks that are out there holding events that are still doing the hard work that needs to be done. And
they look like us. They look like us,
Right.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So what I want to do is I want to circle back around a little bit. And Lawanda, tell me the date of your conference. Is it only open to social equity? And kind of give us a day in the life of what's going on, of like how from start to finish and what people can expect when they come.
Okay, so the event it's called the second annual Cannabis Equity Summit and Expo. It's at the Hilton Oakland Airport. It's like literally right by the airport in Oakland. So
that's what it is.
Mm-hmm. There's a link, I believe, in the chat. And let's see here. So it's open. It's a B2B conference and summit. So ancillary businesses, licensed businesses, supporters, advocates. It's an industry business to business event. So it's not for consumers, this one. And because we're focusing on getting a lot of buyers and people, real estate people, investors, to go to the expo and the summit. We also, so the summit side, we have 3 tracks, focusing on entrepreneurship, the supply chain operation side, and also workforce development, because we want to make sure that people know how to hire diverse workforce and how to maintain and retain those good employees. So, so we're focusing on diverse workforce as well. So I think that, so basically the whole day it starts at 9 a.m. and we have like fun activities. We're using technology like an event app so that people can network with each other through the app and meet with each other there and off, you know, site. That app is going to be available. It's become a business to business directory. So all the attendees will have access to the speakers, the sponsors, the exhibitors, all the attendees. We want to basically level out the playing field, make everybody accessible. And this directory will be live for 1 year. And so yeah, people arrive, they can, you know, take photos at the photo booth, and then they can go to their different tracks. Later on, we're going to provide, you know, lunch for everyone that's included. And let's see what else. Then they go back to, then the expo opens, and that's when they can see the products, the 15 equity-owned businesses. And so basically, and then the summit goes on throughout the day until like 4 o'clock, excuse me, until around 4 o'clock. Then there's a break because we have an after party at another venue. We rented out a private venue for the after party so people can network more. There's a full bar there. It'll be on consumption. It's friendly. And let's see here, DJ, and will be a good time. That's from 7 to 10. So it's pretty much all day. And that's free. That the after party is free to everyone who attends the
conference.
Yeah, and we want to, and the tickets are reasonable. For equity applicants, it's $50. For everyone else, it's $100. And we put out some scholarships through some other partners. We can offer M for MM, some scholarships to distribute as well. But right now, there's like Supernova Women, Hood Incubator, MCBA, and the SF Equity Group, the original equity group in San Francisco. Those are some of the nonprofits that are that have access to those free tickets. And like I said, we'd be more than happy to allocate some scholarship tickets to M for MM as well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Lawanda, tell me a little bit about the type of products that you have in the expo. Like what kind of products? I mean, I don't want you to give it away for folks, but you know, tell me, you know, what are some of the products they might see, or a particular product that you are most, that you find the most interesting, I guess, if you will.
Well, let's see. So there's, we have a lot of flour. I mean, it's great flour too. I mean, that's no surprise. We're in Northern California, so we're going to produce great flour. But so we have a lot of flour and pre-rolls. We have great topicals. So I would say those are the 2 top categories: is flour and topicals. And then there's some other vape pens. There's a few vape pens. No edibles, because you know it's really difficult for people, I think, to get access to a commercial kitchen space. And even if they do have a commercial kitchen space, it's difficult to package and get and have your product shelf stable without having to refrigerate them. So what we're doing, so the thing I'm excited about is I'm going to highlight an edible manufacturer at the after party. And so people can taste their cupcakes. And so all of the exhibitors, everyone, they're listed on through the link. There's some hyperlinks to the event webpage, so you can see who the exhibitors are. You can, they're live. You can go directly to their website. The speaker and the agenda is live as well.
That's awesome. Awesome. So Kimberly, tell us a little bit about your Vegas event, a day in the life. What should people expect when they come and they attend
Well, it's the fun part is I get to announce that Charlie Mack, music mogul, Charlie Mack, many of them know he does a tremendous amount of music. He's currently doing a lot of the music that you see on Housewives for Atlanta. Huh. And it took me a minute to get that out there. And so he is actually producing our show, The Charlie Mack.
Okay.
And so he's keeping a lot of his production and what he's going to produce as kind of like a surprise. But the way I understand it, it's going to be an experience. So it will be live at our studio. And so that you know about our studio, it has some interesting history to it. Our studio is in an old courtroom.
Wow.
Courtroom, ACTV in downtown Las Vegas is in an old courtroom.
Okay.
Right.
For many of our people have probably went to jail for the very thing that we're going to be celebrating, which is weed.
Absolutely.
And so it starts at 7 o'clock. And it ends with a countdown at midnight into 4:20. It is a live television event. We will be having bands. We will open up with a band. Then we will show our pilots for the upcoming season. And so it's called the Random of Acts Concert Launch and Live Benefit. The benefit is for Signs of the Times, as I mentioned earlier. And it's going to be and the tickets range because we have VIP sections. So the tickets are from $189 to $5,000.
Okay.
So there's a nice range. And when you go to our Eventbrite, it will be very specific as to that. There will also be some of our sponsors there. You'll be able to try some of the different products at our space. And of course, because it is a television studio, there's absolutely no smoking in any studio. But we're also having a nice little surprise outside for people to enjoy. So it's going to be an experience. You'll be able to see a live show in action. You'll be able to see some of our sponsors there and try some of their samples. And then you'll be able to see some of the upcoming seasons that we're going to have, the pilots from upcoming seasons that we're going to be having on the channel. And then you'll also get to meet, of course, former NFL Dallas football player, David Irving, and along with some of the other A-listers that will be there that evening. Okay. So Charlie Mack is putting it on. So I guarantee you will feel like you're like an A-list celebrity yourself. Whether you pay $189 or you pay the $5,000, everybody's going to feel very special.
Very nice. Very nice.
So we invite you to come and enjoy the experience. I think it's going to be really cool how they're going to roll it out, especially with the countdown to 420. It's an event that you don't want to miss.
So let me ask you a question. Has it, in your role, are you going to, I'm sure, how do you make sure there is a commitment towards equity and I mean, not even equity, but more so diversity and inclusion from a content perspective? If there's someone out here that's listening that has a show idea or has some content that might be applicable for the channel, how do they pitch it to you? How do they get involved from that perspective?
We're so easy to be reached. You can go to usweedchannel.com and, go to Shane at usweedchannel.com. You can find me. It's very easy to find me as well. I'm just Kimberly at keiconnects.com, the strategic branding arm for the Reed channel. And, just send me a quick email, send me a sample of your work. We're not just looking at, we're looking at minorities from all perspectives, making sure that women are seen in the industry, making sure that the Latinas and the African Americans, all of us are represented on this channel.
Right.
We also understand, and that there are people that enjoy it for rec reasons, and there are people that don't believe it should be used for rec. But our channel is going to show everything. I mean, what good is it for us to have a channel if we're not showing the cannabis lifestyle? It's a global network designed to show the cannabis lifestyle in the world that we're living in today. So that program is probably going to be creative. It's going to be educational. It's going to be entertainment. And of course, it's going to also reach a segment of the community that believes in smoking. Just, this is what we want to do. We enjoy it and we want to smoke it. So we're going to have the whole gamut. And that's what's going to make this channel so unique. and especially making sure that we're including everyone. So I ask female producers to come to the table. I worked in a newsroom, like I said, for many, many years that were predominantly white, and we did not have as many Black producers as I wish. And I'm on the East Coast. I worked in Chicago. I worked for CBS News in Chicago. I worked for NBC News in Pittsburgh. I worked for Fox 40 News in Sacramento, California. So I know the makeup of the newsroom, and that's one of the things that's going to be different at the US Weed Channel. We're going to have producers of all different nationalities when we start producing our content. And that's why this raise for the channel and this benefit is so critical, because when we can start supporting these producers that need the help to get the stories out there, everybody's going to they'll be able to see a huge difference.
Now, will some of that funding from the raise be put to fund the content production?
Absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely.
So if someone came with a good idea and didn't have the funding, you guys could potentially, if it's a good enough idea, you guys could potentially fund that.
Absolutely. Product. We have a studio. We have production crews who are partnering with us. They're ready to go. As a matter of fact, we've had people from Europe contact us with amazing ideas.
Right.
And when we get the funding, we're going to be traveling, to Europe. But why travel to Europe right now when we've got stories in our backyard?
Tons of them.
We got tons of them. You know what, Lawanda, I got a question for you. When you look at what you're doing with the social equity applicants or the license holders there in I want to say Northern California, because you're working Oakland, but you have Sacramento, San Francisco. I know that Fresno is trying to put some things in place. What's the temperature for transitioning or getting folks who haven't been successful from a licensing perspective to look at some of the ancillary businesses that might still be open? And that's kind of where we, Eric and I, have figured out where it's a potential sweet spot. And we actually have a track of education on the ancillary side. What's been the temperature for people to kind of get into the industry from ancillary businesses?
That's a good question. I mean, I would encourage it, number one, because the legal market or the licensing business is very hard to be in this industry and licensed cannabis business. And so I think that it needs to be encouraged more, because I think everybody wants to own a dispensary. Everybody wants to cultivate. It's very, sexy. It's not so sexy to be like a bookkeeper but we need these, we need bookkeepers, we need marketing people, we need attorneys, sales. Oh gosh, I can't tell you how many applicants asked me for salespeople who can help them get their product on the shelf or through deliveries. And so there's a big gap of ancillary service providers, especially that look like us. And so I would encourage people to not necessarily, that's a better entry into the industry. It's safer and it's more scalable. So go look at the ancillary side, and you never know. Somebody may want to partner with you who has a license, who needs the services you provide. And so you can kind of get both.
Right.
Yeah.
Just staying in your lane. I tell people stay in their lane.
So the general applicants who are, so again, if you guys don't know, a part of Oakland's program is that you, as a social equity applicant, you get incubated. Basically, you have a general applicant who partners with you and provides office space or a space for your business. I think it's for the first 3 years, it's free, correct, Lawanda? And then if in that partnership, not only do you as an applicant get your license, but the general applicant has the opportunity to get their own license in this space as well. Do you have any examples of general applicants who are really knocking it out the ballpark in regards to being supporters, who are buying from social equity applicants? And how can we shine a light on those folks? Because I had some issues with some of the general applicants that I wanted to blast them and say, listen, stop trying to use us to get by.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it's so tough. I do have some good examples, but nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. Even there's some models out there that, like, Nug has a model where are you familiar with Nug?
What is it again?
Nug, N-U-G.
Yes, I am.
Okay, so they have a model where they prefer for the applicant that if they don't have the experience to work be an employee, work for them, get the skills, and then they'll partner with them on a dispensary or cultivation. It's not perfect. Nobody's perfect, but they do employ the people, so they, because a lot of times when people get into the licensing, they don't have any income. And so they're, and it's very capital intensive. So I think a model where the applicant can be paid and learn, have a learning environment, and then get ownership, if that's the path that they choose is ownership, is a model that seems to be working for some people.
Okay.
And then another good model that I like is where the general is incubating, like a manufacturer is incubating a distributor.
Okay.
Right. And so and so they sort of partner in that fashion where all the products they're using that distributor to distribute their products.
Right. And so
we got a couple questions, Roz.
Okay, go ahead.
One question that was asked about was in terms of the summit that you're doing, Lawanda. Is that specific? Is that region specific?
That's a good question. It's in Oakland, so I mean it's a little restrictive that way. But no, we invite businesses and ancillary service providers from everywhere actually to attend, because the information is applicable to everyone who's in the business. Not consumers, but on the business side.
Good job. What else you got, Eric? What other questions?
Okay. And then another question that we got. This question was more so about another state, Oregon. Folks are asking about support in Oregon. If you know of any folks like yourself, Lawanda, that are doing some of this work up in Oregon, which is a market that's been underway for some time there, but minorities are really lacking the support. And I can tell you from a minorities for medical marijuana standpoint, we have put in place a chapter president. And so we are working to get that chapter in Oregon underway. And if you're in that area, we'd love to have you as a member and help us to get that going out there. But Lawanda, do you know anybody out in Oregon that's doing any work?
Yes, so MCBA, Minorities in Cannabis Business Association, they're based out of Oregon. So that's one, that would probably be the first place to point people to. And then I believe there's an organization called Indica, spelled NDICA, I believe. They're based out of Oregon. My sister-in-law sits on the board of MCBA in Portland. And so I know that they have other organizations that they're working with that do this kind of work. So right. They do exist, but I would go to MCBA first, their website.
Right. And then I would tell you guys that there is, it takes resources. And Lawanda and I had a conversation about, the work that she's doing. This is not like you have the funds to do it. And so when you're putting these events on or what have you, what we have to do and what we have to really charge our states is being able to allocate the resources. Stop nickel and diming us and give me a little bit and making me stretch it so far to try to be able to give the services that you would for another organization where you wouldn't expect so much. You would expect, I'll give you this much, and your expectation of what you deliver is going to be measurable to the amount of funds that you give. And I will tell you now that we're doing this boot camp in Missouri, and we're doing it, it's a private, that we're doing and doing the funding and getting the sponsors. You get so bogged down trying to find sponsors and to fund your event that you're not able to get the content. And so we could talk about that. It is, and Kimberly, as well as you are doing something on the private side, it's no easier. So I had a conversation, I had a reporter ask me what things that we need to see differently or what some examples of social equity programs. And I'm like, it's not just the programs, we need solutions now. Solution is if you have funds that are coming in, reinvest it back into the work that folks are doing so that we don't have to struggle to do the work to get people where they need to be. And I know if you guys want to talk about the funding aspect of how do you breathe life into, if somebody's out here right now, they have a conference idea or expo idea, how do you breathe life into it and get the funding to be able to put that on and to not stress?
Wow, which one of the?
Go for it. It's a loaded question. I'm living it right now.
It is a loaded question because, of course, for a television network, we need every bit of 20 million really to get it started to the degree that we need to get it started.
Right.
Now, why do I know this is going to work? I'm going to tell you how I know it's going to work. It's because having the unprecedented federal trade and service marks, no matter which way the federal government goes, is a protective mechanism for cannabis trying to make an iconic brand name, a name that's remembered. But also, according to the latest U.S. Census, 14% of the American public has admitted breaking the law to smoke marijuana on a daily basis. Now,
right.
What we had for a segment of the community where there's like 12% African American, and we had BET. And BET sold for $8 billion plus. Okay, Telemuna had 16%. Hispanics had a population of almost 16%, and they have Telemundo that sold for billions of dollars. Now we have a space where 14% of the people say they're partaking cannabis on a daily basis. They admitted to the U.S. government they're breaking the law. That number is probably double. So now we have the challenge of going to investors and showing them that there is a need for this network.
Right.
And there is a need for the $20 million that will be translating into more than a multi-billion-dollar television channel.
Right.
But the funding, this is where we are. And you know what people like to do. Let us see how that works out for you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sit on the side of the pool while we're in the deep end, saying the water's fine, come on in. Well, let us see how that works out for you. And these are cannabis companies who have the money and are sitting on their hands and won't give us the money. So we're at this point where we know this is going to catch fire. We've got some incredible people at the table, from Charlie Mack to David Irving, and the ones who come to the table first to fund and understand the importance of this educational channel that can change everything.
Right.
Because I know what, just as we were talking, those trade shows aren't easy to put on.
No, they're hard. They're hard.
Those trade shows are not easy. They are not easy to put on. And I know many of these cannabis companies are among 5,000 to 6,000 other people on the floor. And if you think somebody's going to remember you by driving not 65, almost 85 miles an hour past your billboard.
Right.
You will not be the iconic brand that will be remembered.
Well, I got one more minute. I got one more minute. So Lawanda, because you're living this right now. 1 minute. Tell us again, any advice for someone who's wanting to do something very specific in their region, their community, their state, that's an expo or symposium. How do you get the funding to get going and breathe life into it?
It's all about strategic partnerships. So we created an alliance. We call it the Alliance because we started talking to people like banks and Manpower and some other bigger organizations to form a relationship with them months ago, like almost a year ago.
Right.
Telling them what we were trying to do, and we just stayed on it and just built these relationships with these people. And then by the time it was actually time to ask for money, they were offering it to us. We didn't have to ask.
Right.
And once we got a few sponsors, then more sponsors came in, and now we're having to turn sponsors away. This is a complete difference than it was last year, where we were begging for money. Now they're offering it to us. So I would say strategic partnerships, start early, build those relationships, and it will benefit you.
Guys, we got to get out of here. I am out of time. This sucks. I'm out of time. Good Lord, we can keep going. I thank you, sisters. Appreciate the hard work you're doing. Best of luck to everyone that's out there, what you guys are doing. Eric, take us home, man.
Absolutely. Thank you, ladies, again. And if you're watching, go out and bring somebody else into the next show. This weekend, go home, love on your family, kiss them and hug them, spend some time relaxing and rejuvenating, and let's get back to work on Monday morning. I love you all, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.